Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to episode 4 of Everything CAW. This is a special episode. I feel like that this needs to be out here. So therefore, I want to definitely get this out here for episode 4. We talked about accountability. Now we move on to burning bridges. This is a topic that needs to be talked about during an episode because I feel like a lot of people that I've seen in the CAW community are burning so many bridges that this needs to be a topic to discuss. And help me to discuss this topic is none other than I call him the doctor of terminology, which is DJ Chaotic. Welcome, DJ Chaotic.
What up? I like the way you did that.
Now we get into the major topics here, and I don't know how you feel about this topic, kicking the show off, but we're going to give the introduction, of course, before we get into the deep dive of how this thing sets. So with the introduction, guys, we're going to kick off episode 4 of welcome you guys to episode 4 of Everything CAW. We take a deep dive into the unseen architectural of the virtual wrestling community, loyalty, partnerships, and brand preservations. Building a CAW promotion or digital wrestling brand isn't a solo act. It takes a network of creators, custom content makers, graphic designers, and promotion owners who have your back. Today, we talk about why you must protect those relationships, how burning bridges can run a promotion faster than a bad booking, and why keeping loyal allies close is the ultimate cheat code for long-term success. And that was the introduction of this talk, but we got a lot of segments in this. We're going to talk about know your allies and block, eliminate and eliminate your enemies. Set a burial to your Fed, including partnerships. Eliminate drama and quit giving people numerous chances that shown they will never be loyal. Build your own Fed how you want with restrictions, keeping your company and talent safe. Most important, your health and stress is important to keep away from toxic people. In this discussions, we'll have 30 minutes a piece talking about it. So we're going to be here a long time. I'm going to say with this topic, I'd say we'd be here to almost 2 hours, 30 minutes for this segment as we get onto it. And DJ, do you want to say anything that you want to say as an introduction to get your mind and break it down in terminology, what you think creators should do before we get into the first segment? Also, like I said, before we get into this, is give an introduction of yourself and talk about why supporting the right companies keeps the game alive.
For starters, ladies and gentlemen, I am DJ Chaotic, wrestler / owner of the WCW brand and XCW brand, soon to be created. I am in this to see CAW grow and be successful. And my points of interest in this whole thing is making sure that we have a safe environment for people to come into. Whether you're new, whether you're a vet, you can rest assured that the things I'm looking into doing is maintaining the safe environment for everyone, making sure I understand who's the toxic narrative people that's in this industry, and making sure that we have a communication factor to be more mindful with each other. And with that being said, it's like I'm here for anybody to talk to and get to know at the same time.
Now we get into the first segment. And, you know, in this community, your circle is your shield. If you don't know who's standing behind you, you are already booked to lose. So this is where the segment's going to come into play. Know your allies and block your enemies. For topic one, we're going to welcome to the deep dive segment of the day. When you're running a virtual federation, your energy is most limited resource. You cannot afford to waste it on people who want to see you fail while smiling in your face. The segment is all about auditing your inner circle and identifying who genuinely supports your vision and completely cutting out the toxic noise. Now, the topic's discussion, you know, the alliance topic is this question goes, I would say this question goes to me and DJ for this, because we got fans also question for you fans that if you guys want to answer in the chat, you're more than welcome to. But the first question here is this. How do you look at your current roster, staff, and partner promotions and honestly evaluate who puts effort versus who just takes up space?
That's a good one. That is a definite good one, because here's the synopsis of how I see things. Overall productivity, overall commitment, and the third and most important thing is the viewership / little insight to detail on how they help you succeed overall. Because these three things are a vital piece to seeing your show succeed and be successful. Because if anything, I can say this. From the knowledge that I've gotten from most eFed owners, such as yourself, CJ, and so many other people I've talked to, how I've seen their show ran, how I've seen them structure, how I've seen them build their roster. It all starts with you bringing the right guys in that's going to set the tone, not just for your show, but the professionalism that they bring to the table. Treat your show as if it's the real life business. Don't sit there and literally be one of those individuals that's going to say, oh, I'm going to run a show, but then turn around and bring any old body to the table. You can't just build a show with just anybody. You have to have a foundation. Without that foundation, you don't have no guidance. Especially, you got to have at least somebody with guidance. And I have a few people that I've talked to. You, CJ, shout out to you. Kevin Impact being another one. Brosky, Dick, and Dixie. Both of them are vital pieces to how I built my show. And that's going to be the structure that I continue with moving forward, because I just can't allow any old thing to hinder what I'm going to build. Because if you build it, they will come. At the same time, you got to know who your core pieces are. If you don't know who your core pieces are, you might want to talk with your roster and see who's going to be your core pieces. Because those core pieces, you got to have your knights, you got to have your rooks, and you got to have your king and queen. Without those pieces, how are you going to build your roster? Who are you going to structure as your champions? These are the things you have to ask yourself when you're building your E-phase. And I'll let you go, CJ, because I know you got a couple of things you want to feed off of that.
You know, going back to this question, you know, it's pretty simple. You know, how do you look at your current roster, staff, and partner promotions and honestly evaluate who puts effort versus who just takes up space? It's pretty simple. The ones that support you, you need to keep. And the ones that, you know, really come to the show like once in a blue moon, that's the red flags. That's the one you need to just put on the block list and not even talk to them again. Because if they ain't supporting you, they're the ones that's talking behind your back. That's the truth. There's a lot of people.
100%.
There's a lot of people in the CAW community. They love to be a part of promotions, but half of those people, I'm not saying all those people, but half those people, they would say, "Oh yeah, I'd love to come to your show," and then next thing you know, when your back's turned, when you don't know nothing about it, it's like they talk to you bad about you behind your back, and that's where drama and negativity comes. And you know, we try to not be like these other people. You know, that's the thing I'm going to say here on everything CAW. We try to show positive side of CAW. So don't take that for granted or don't twist my words to your own narrative, because there's a lot of people that does in the CAW community. They are good for twisting words. And there's a lot of people that really and truly, I have to agree with Aaron O'Connor. There's a lot of people that are in too many E-feds too. That's the truth too. But at the same time, what I'm saying is there's a lot of these people that says they for you, and then it don't add up. You know, their actions don't add up to their deeds, or their deeds don't own up to their actions. And the people that, like I said, you need to keep versus just takes up space. The people that takes up space, do the method of replacement. Find somebody that will replace them so you don't have to worry about them, and help your show to grow successful. And the most important thing that I've seen, you know, in the CAW community, especially JTV Wrestling, huge shout out to Kevin Impact. The huge thing that I've seen in JTV is this. Kevin Impact, he'll work with anybody. That right there shows you that he's giving you a chance. And, you know, everybody deserves a chance. But I'm not saying that everybody deserves a chance. I'm saying, you know, Kevin Impact gives chances and he works with people. But at the same time, you got to have a structure of, when some people, keeps on doing the same thing, you got to have a structure set for that stage saying, okay, they screwed me 3 times and now I'm going to give them a 4th time. I got to send a standard. I got to set a gate up so they can't come back in. And that's what I'm trying to say. You guys got to like set up a structure to where it protects you as the owner, your wrestlers, and also your fan base, because there's a lot of people in the CAW community. I'm not saying no names. Okay, I'm not trying to stir up drama, anything like that, but I'm just speaking truth.
Agreed.
There's a lot of people that love to be a part of companies, especially they do half-ass the work, which means they barely show up for shows. They probably in too many e-feds, like Aaron O'Connor said, which I definitely agree, because, I'm one of those. I don't have time to do every show, but I try to at least make it. That's the thing. But at the same time, it's one of those things that you just got to overlook and say, okay, how can I set a structure up to where these people can't overtake my boundaries? And what I mean by that is they can't keep screwing you out of opportunities, or they can't keep screwing you. You gotta set up a structure. So it's like building a building. Okay, for example, if you're going to build a skyscraper, you need something that'll hold that building up. If not, that motherfucker is going to fall. Same thing with e-fed community. You need to set a structure, and the structure is a huge, vital, important thing into the CAW community, e-fed community, whatever you want to say, because here's why the structure is important. It keeps a boundary and a barrier, which a barrier, if you don't know what a barrier means, it sets up a foundation that keeps people from going in and out. So in other words, your company or yourself ain't going through a revolving door. So in other words, it's, I don't know if you guys ever seen a revolving door, but every time you go in a revolving door, it keeps going one direction, the same old shit every single time. What I'm trying to say is that's how these people are. They will do the same shit every time. They will tell you they show up or they do this, and it's like a revolving door. It's a broken record. It keeps going the same old way, and it don't take a reverse to it. Same thing with this. I think that honestly, the people that puts effort, that's the people you need to reward. That's what I'm going to say. But the people who just takes up space, they don't deserve nothing. They've not put their time in. They've not even cut the promo. They've not even built anything up. That's the people that you don't need to reward, is what I'm saying. Going to get on to this next topic. And boy, this topic is going to hit a lot of people. And I think this topic's actually good for a topic. Don't get me wrong. But as I bring this up, spotting the snakes, recognizing the warning signs of fake support, people who only show up when it benefits them or when your numbers are up. This is right here, DJ can tell you, as well as myself, when your numbers is up, and when you're doing something successful, the haters are going to hate because they jealous. They can't be you. And this is this right here is the biggest thing that I've seen in the CAW community for years. And I don't know, I think DJ started maybe last year or the year before, somewhere around there. But I
started in 23.
You mean
2K23 was when I started my first big e-fed.
So he's been here 3 years. So he saw this stuff with the snakes, recognizing the warning signs, recognizing that, like it says, fake support, people show up and it benefits them when their numbers is up. These are the same people you got to watch out for. This is the same people that keeps burning bridges. These are the people that you have to say, okay, I gave you chance after chance after chance after chance, no more. I'm done with the snakes. In other words, you got to cut the head off of a snake, because eventually that snake's going to bite you and then it causes serious health problems. Same thing with the e-fed community. You got a snake it's going to cause you serious bad reputation, which is like the health problems, but only for your company. Your company's not going to flourish because now you got the snake in it. Now the snake's literally hitting everybody in sight with its veins, and you're not going to win in this scenario. So this is a huge vital information on that part. So I'm going to let DJ give you his sides, and I'm also going to give you my sides. But DJ, you get to answer this question of spotting the snakes.
Now, I'm going to give you 3 major things on how to spot these guys. Number 1, watch your chat for how they speak. This is probably the biggest sign that you can see how these snakes operate. Number 2, if they demand title opportunities. One of the biggest things these snakes do coming into their chats, they like to demand title opportunities. They don't want to see themselves growing. They don't want to see themselves work for opportunity, none of that. Those 2 things right there are probably the most vital things you can watch for if you want to spot a snake. And then 3, if they target rookie chat members that's just now starting in CAW. These 3 things right here, I think, is the most necessity things that you need to look for in your chat to spot a snake. And no offense to it, this is how they operate, because they operate in packs at the same time. So you don't know if you may have 1, you don't know if you may have 2, you don't know if you may have 3, but they operate in packs because they like to go behind your backs and tell this, that, and the third to somebody else, but don't move efficiently. Snakes are the biggest reason why your chat can go downhill. And you can comment below, tell me if I'm right, tell me if I'm wrong, but I've seen this in the 3 years that I've been in CAW, and it literally shows volumes.
Now, if DJ's through, answer that. I'm going to answer that next. I'm going to make sure that DJ's through with this before.
Yep. The stage is all you.
The shout out to Aaron O'Connor again before I answer this. More often than not, they are not even part of your show. And that's true. Some of them's not a part of your show. Some of them are spies. I give Aaron O'Connor for that one. You know, he's right about that. But moving over to the question now, spotting the snakes, recognizing the warning signs of fake supporters, people who only show up when it benefits them or when your number's up. I'm going to give you 2 examples, 2 red flags to watch out for these people. Okay, with the warning signs of fake supporters, and they show up when it benefits them, or, you know, when your numbers is up, meaning that you have views or people watching. Here's the biggest thing that I've seen so far in the CAW community that I'm going to enlighten you on. Number 1, you ever heard the terminology, a friend of my enemy? So they are going to be in cahoots with your friends and try to get your friends to turn against you because they need the numbers on their side. That's one big flag you need to watch out for. Be careful on who you trust, because you never know if you got a friend here that might be two-faced that's telling them information. That's one big red flag there. That's my number 1 topic on. And number 2, the biggest red flag of all, you know, I've seen this in a lot of feds that I was in, you know, when I was in HKW holding the Chaos Championship. You know, a lot of feds when I'm in, there's more of them. Their main thing or main goal is this. They love to talk about and maybe they do something as devious as make fake accounts about you to put the pressure on you to make you look like the bad guy. Maybe they take, you know, and I saw this, you know, with my good friend Daniel over at WWU. They tried to ruin relationships. getting in people's real life personal life that they don't need to be in. That's another one. And shout out to Daniel for WWU. Love you, brother. I hope you're listening and hope you're liking the show. But that's the two main things there. They will do anything that's devious, and also they will hang around your friend just to get information so they can work for their part. That's the two biggest red flags on my part. But going back to this question here is simple. The warning signs, pretty simple. Like Stone Cold Steve Austin, one of my greatest favorite wrestlers in WWF. He had a very good saying, and DJ knows where I'm going with this. DTA, don't
trust anybody.
There is a reason why Stone Cold says this. The moment you trust somebody that you think maybe that your friend will eventually turn cold and show true colors eventually. That's something that you need to watch out for. That is the matter of fact, that is the biggest number 3 red flag there. Because I've been in a lot of feds. I thought I could trust people. Next thing I know, I get removed because they are putting false accusations out or, false stuff that I didn't do. And I can't even get back in those feds because of it. So I'm just telling you guys as, helpful information, watch out for these people.
And the number one thing that I can say, if I can get this out there too, I think CJ, you may agree with me on this or not. Watch your owner of the Fed.
Definitely. That right there, you know what? I give DJ props on that. Watch the owner. Definitely. You took that right there and hit it right in the nail in the coffin because
some of these owners will screw you in a heartbeat. Some of these owners are cool, but get to know your owner because you don't know what type of owner you may meet in this eFed industry. Owners can stab you in the back in a heartbeat. So beware the owner that you are with. And that's all I got to say to that one.
So going back to that question real quick, I'm going to finish this up because we're getting on close to 30 minutes time for this question. But like I said, watch out for your friends. DTA, don't trust anyone. Watch how they move and operate, meaning watch everything that they do, meaning, Facebook, social media wise, because they love to stir up the pot. And the last thing DJ said, watch and see what the owners does. Because I know a lot of owners, that screwed me out of a lot of opportunities. Word come back to me, and there's people that's told me a lot of owners' names out of this. So be careful who you trust, because you may think you can trust somebody, and the next thing you know, it gets true colors exposed on 4K. So now, I'm done with that one. Moving on to the next topic, and this is going to be a crucial question for me and DJ here. This right here is the power of the block button. Why cutting off toxic elements isn't being dramatic. It's basic operation for security for your brand. Why is that a major important factor, DJ, to you? And also, I'll answer that question. I'll let you go first, brother.
Now, why is blocking individuals a key factor to me? I'll break this down in 2 parts for y'all. One, it protects you from everything that they try to spew out there. And number 2, it gives you peace of mind knowing that you don't have any contact with this individual. There are some red flag individuals out here. I'm not saying no names or anything, but they know who they are. And we all know who they are from being in certain feds or whatever the case may be. But at the same time, you have to protect yourself and your energy. This is why the block button is critical for those individuals. Even if you're new to eFed, ask your owners, Who's the red flag individuals? Who's these individuals, and if they try to associate or contact with you? If they're on your friends list, remove, block automatically. Because these things do tend to build up if they have a fake account, or if they have this decoy account watching your every move. It's vital that you cut the snake off at any given second. You see signs of them going toxic, block them. There's no excuses. This is 2026. It is time to protect your environment and your livelihood in this e-fed industry. There's no need for you to keep associating with a toxic individual that did you wrong. And that's all I can say to that one.
Now, if DJ's through with that, I'm going to answer that question. I'm making sure that DJ's through with that before
I'm good.
Okay. Going back to the power of the block button. Why cutting off toxic elements isn't being dramatic. It's basal operation security for your brand. Why is this important to not only me, DJ, and the rest of us? It separates us from being not only with the drama causers, with people that does not need to be in CAW, especially pedophiles. I don't know why somebody would allow pedophiles to be in their fed, but that's another question we get on to maybe somewhere down the road. It protects you as the owner. It protects, your talent. Keep communication tight. Let your talent know. Have documentation. That is another good thing. Keep documentation of what was said. Even if it's like in a video, keep documentation, what was said, what was recorded, because it helps you out in the long run. The more documentation you have is the more things you can expose the narrative, and it helps you out in the long run. I'm not saying that go ahead and make a fake account of somebody and just falsely frame them for something. No. That's not how you do things. Catch them in the act with their real account. See how they move. See how they operate. See how they twist narratives, twist words. Those are the people you need to watch out for. Those are the people you just have to put that X button and say no more. I'm done with you, is what I'm trying to say for that question. Now, getting on to the next question is this. How do you currently distinguish between a casual viewer who enjoys a product and a true ally who supports your promotion behind the scenes? And DJ, I'll let you have this question for this, and I'll answer it after you.
How do you determine this? This is how you know they're a fan and they're a huge supporter. First things first, they're always in contact with you, knowing to know when's the next show and this, that, and the third. They're bringing loyal subscribers to you. They're sharing the product. Number 3, and this is the most vital thing of them all, they know exactly when you start and when you are locked in. Because these 3 things, I think, in most CAW communities, you have your loyal supporters. And if they are a loyal supporter, you could tell they're a loyal supporter if they shared the link out to everybody, they shared it on their page, they went to the next social media account, shared it over there, and they're drawing attraction to you. You could tell your loyal supporters by if they are locked in, interacting with you, not just on your YouTube channel, but also on your actual on your actual Facebook page or Twitter page or Instagram. Whatever you share your links out to, this is how they are following. At the same time, these followers are genuine fans. You treat your genuine fans with the same utmost respect you would your roster. This is how you know what's real and what's not. Your followers are like your biggest fans. they're going to give you insight to say, oh, here, can you do this dream match in your bed for me? I would always like to see X, Y, and Z wrestler go against X, Y, and Z wrestler. This is pretty much your general fan base asking you for a genuine match. If you set it up on the lineup, you can say this match was dedicated to this person. Boom. In your match card. Thank you for this heads-up match. I love when I get interaction from people to give me insight on what matches I feel is most important to not just the show, but to also have the fan base feel welcome. And that's all I got to say to that one. CJ, the floor is yours.
Now, going back on this question, distinguish between a casual viewer who enjoys your product and a true ally who supports your promotion. You can tell the difference between the two. Main thing is this. People that support you are going to keep communication. The people that don't support you, they don't even show that communication. They don't even show that interest anymore. They just come and go on a constant basis. They go to one show and then they don't like that other show and then they come back. You know, it's kind of revolving door base. That is what I'm trying to say about these people. It's a revolving door. But going back to the casual viewer and an ally supports your motion behind the scenes, pretty much these people are the same people. But at the same time, you got to watch out for people like this, because if your ally supports you behind the scenes, that ally could be using information to make his show better. So in other words, you got to keep things on a low profile when you're planning stuff for your show, because it only hurts you in the long run as a content creator and a promoter in CAW when you tell your things to other people. In other words, keep your mouth shut is what I'm trying to say. I know this for a fact too, that I'm going to say, with the people who enjoys the product, these people, you know, especially a casual viewer that's, you know, like a fan, these people are going to share the stream out. These are the people you actually need to keep. They're going to share the stream out. And, you know, old saying goes, words go a long way. They're going to like say, hey, did you watch this show on YouTube? You know, check this out. Then that's when you get your views, because now that casual viewer is telling people about your product. Now you're getting in the viewership. Now you're getting in people that wants to be a part of something, because now word goes a long way. Basically what I'm trying to say. Going to the next question, and I'm going to let DJ swing a baseball bat on this. It's time to hit home runs with this question. So me and you better have some big answers for this one. What are the biggest red flags in someone in CAW community is working against your brand rather than with it? DJ, you got the.
Oh, buddy.
Listen, brother, swing that goddamn baseball bat like you're hitting a home run.
Oh, boy. Boy, do I have a lot of points on this one. For one, and this is probably the most biggest side of that topic right there, CJ. A person who has stolen ideas, stole your vision, and stole idea names of your product, i.e. show name, regardless of the matter, that's a big sign. Number 2 sign of this whole outlook. A owner who has been in your chat but evidently steals roster members without ever telling you or giving consent to you that you got said roster member. Number 3, and this is probably the biggest one of them all, a man that has been in your corner from day one, talked with you, chopped it up with you, was all buddy-buddy, just to get vital information from you, and stole your whole persona and flow for his own show. Now, don't get me wrong. These are all vital red flags in my book because you like to protect your roster, but at the same time, you are feeding roster members your own ideas and information to the owners. This is why you got to keep your roster close-knit circle, a tight-knit circle. Because if you don't have your roster tight-knit, this is how information doesn't leak out. And those three things I mentioned are probably the most biggest vital things in the E-Fed industry. People who steal your idea, your creativity, your whole arena and flow. Also, stealing your cause for no apparent reason without your consent. All these things are vital red flags to not just your show, but then you have to rebrand your show just off the strength because these guys want to steal your ideas. And that's all I'm going to have to say to that, because I hate when you have individuals that don't respect your vision and assets. But the stage is yours, CJ.
Now, since DJ answered that, I'm going to answer this, and this is going to be, you might as well get a pen and paper and get your popcorn because I'm about ready to throw nukes. What is the biggest red flags that someone in CAW community is working against your brand rather than with it? Well, first of all, there's a lot of things I got to say on this question. And to be honest, really and truly, I don't care if people get mad because this is the truth, and truth will stand when the world's on fire. The biggest red flag that someone in CAW community is working against your brand, they will go to a person they rely on that's done, sided with them for years. And, I've known a lot of people that done that. Not saying no names, but I noticed that, they tell you to your face, oh, we ain't going to go back with this person. But at the same time, when that cookie starts to overturn, that cookie's not getting done on the other end, and it shows its true value. Same thing with the CAW community. There is people in the CAW community that literally will tell you stuff that makes no sense about it. And they will tell you, oh, we ain't working with this brand or this brand, something of that nature. Also, there's a thing that I've learned that these people will literally tell you, oh, I don't think I earned anything. I'm going to work for another show. These are the people to watch out for, especially because, especially when you give them a chance and they worked hard for their thing and they didn't feel like they was entitled to that or feel like that they didn't work hard for it when they earned it the right way. It became what we call in the business flush down the toilet. Not only you flush down the toilet with one scenario, but also you flush the toilet down to ever, being in contact with somebody because of the bad decisions that you've been making. And, going back to the biggest red flags of this, I'm trying to get this, right down to the question here, is this. The biggest red flags that I see in the CAW community, somebody's working against your brand, they want to find out what you're doing. They want to have in what we call inner spies. And to me, that right there is my biggest peeve. If you as a person are feeling threatened because of somebody doing better than you, I'm just going to say you're the problem. You're the problem because now you're taking it to a dramatic level. Now you're taking it to a personal level. Now you're taking it to a what I call a grudge level. And what I mean is grudge level is this. You're taking it to a grudge level by doing this. You're instigating because now you are trying to sabotage somebody's hard work because you or yourself can't get on a show, or you in general had an opportunity to be a part of something and you toilet flushed it down the toilet. Now here's where a lot of people are probably going to get pissed at me, and I'm probably going to have a lot of DMs over this concept. But the biggest red flags I've seen is two-faced people. That's what I call two-faced people. They do one thing and do another. And right now, I'm to that point that I'm going to speak what I say. And if you get mad, it must be the truth. You know, I'm not trying to pinpoint this on anybody. I'm just speaking my truth, what's on my mind, what I feel. I got a right. It's called the right to free speech. Something that we have in the Bill of Rights as an American citizens. Now, going back to this question, that's one big flag is two-faced people. The second big flag that I've noticed in the CAW community that, you know, they want to work against your brand is this right here. And DJ brought up a good point about this, because this piece of vital information that DJ brought up to the table is 100%. You could take that to a baseball field and knock the home run out of that ball and pretty much be like the Atlanta Braves and go to the World Series. But the fact of the matter is this. DJ mentioned that the biggest red flag of all is people that don't ask you, or don't ask people for their permission to download their calls and download them anyways. In other words, you're going to somebody's show and downloading the call, and especially if that person owns that call, that's made that call, that took time to bring that call to life, and you don't DM them and ask them for that right, then you are causing problems with the call creator behind the call in yourself, because you didn't come to him individually and asked, hey, can I download you? Or, hey, are you interested to be in my show? If you asked, maybe you get a yes or no response. But if you don't ask and download it, that becomes the bigger problem. That's where people gets mad, and that's where it takes it to a personal level, because people has worked hard for their call, that you trying to steal ideals, and you know who you are. I'm basically shooting the nukes out here on this podcast, because when I shoot, I don't miss. The fact of the matter is this. There's a lot of people that's done me wrong that put me as the, I wouldn't say the victim, but pretty much put me as the guy that everybody targeted because of their lies and manipulation and bullshit. That is another thing that is a red flag. I'm speaking my mind on this. Like I said, if you get mad, you get mad. I don't really care. I'm to the point. I'll speak the truth. And if you get mad, you just get mad. That's just how the cookie's going to crumble. But going back to this question, there's big flags right there. And another thing is a big flag. When somebody warns you about something and you don't heed or listen to the information that is given and screenshot evidence on this, and you go work with somebody else or some other promotion, and they are allowing stuff to be involved and not taking leadership, another thing that DJ mentioned, leadership is a huge key, because some leaders don't want to stand up for the truth. They'd rather have toxicity. They'd rather have all this thing in call that don't need to be in call, because their brain is smarter than their IQ level. And when you get down to that, it really boils a point of practicing what you preach. In other words, lead by example. You ever heard that old saying, lead by an example? In other words, it's time to step up and actually be a leader and not try to, keep on doing the same old revolving door stuff. And then another thing I want to get off, that I've noticed for years in the CAW community about the biggest red flag that people are pretty much trying to work against your brand is they hire people within your chat to be spies to come back to information for themselves. That is a big no-no. In a real company, you guys got to understand, in a real company, if let's say if the two owners, if, for example, you had Kentucky Alliance Wrestling, and then on the other side, you had Kentucky Hardcore Wrestling, and those two company owners got in a big dispute, and then, they got below that, they got a superstar that works for both shows, instigating the scenario. not only you're going to be in the middle of this damn war games, what I call war games, you're going to be in this damn feud, but also you're putting yourself at risk because now you are allowing, instigating drama and all these other things that don't. Yes, there's drama in wrestling. That is a whole different level. But when it comes to drama that literally don't feel like it's wrestling, it takes it to a personal level, or it takes it to a level of, I don't want to be doing this no more. That's when it becomes a problem, is what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of people that does that. The important values of this. And the important values is pretty much setting stone. And I think the biggest thing in the CAW community is not only being a part of the biggest part about being in the CAW community is this is knowing your surroundings, knowing what to look out for and what to speak your mind against. That's the biggest thing that I've seen in the CAW community, and that right there.
One of the biggest things that I'll tell a lot of people right now, and this is probably one of the most rare things that I'm gonna reveal out here to you. Read the room of the CAW group that you're in. Watch the signs. Pinpoint everything that is necessary. If you see red flags in the chat, that is your cue to leave. If you don't see the signs, take screenshots and bring them to owners that you cherish and value, and let them see and let them spot everything for you. There are some owners out here that is willing to be able to listen to everything that you have to say. If they're on your roster, you never know which group you're in and which owner is going to step out that owner zone and be more mindful to say, okay, here, let me see the screenshots. I'll tell you if it's a red flag or not. Boom. You show them the screenshots and here we are. Oh, automatic red flag right there. Automatic red flag right there. I would suggest getting in touch with the owner and tell them you're going to leave. Simple as that.
But the most important thing is us leaders. You know, leading by example is a must. If you can't lead by an example, if you can't stand up to get against these toxic people and against pedophiles and all these, you got to learn. Lead by an example, which means set a standard that everybody will follow, set a standard that everybody will be a part of. And now we're going to move on to this. And it says, DJ, you have the floor, brother.
Let's see here. Oh, what would be holding me back from completely cutting off a toxic individual? It's pretty simple and clear with this whole situation as a whole. One, the quote unquote relationship you may have with this individual, whether it was a close friend or if it was an individual who was feeding you all the insight, all of the structure that you bring to the table. But at the same time, cutting that individual off is very hard versus the creative energy that you have going in. And I say it like this. If it like one of them annoying individuals, you could easily cut that off in a heartbeat. I've done it in 23 when I've had these individuals in my chat, reckless talking, taking away the vibe of, oh, if I'm on the car, this, that, and the third. Like, you could tell the signs, if anything, because you know them. Because, for one, if they continuously asking for championship opportunities, if they're continuously trying to say, why am I not on the lineup? If they continuously are being in that annoying state. And everybody knows that annoying state. I know CJ's had it. Certain owners have had this annoying state happen to them. That's how you know the creative process is feeling drained. Now, as long as if you can't talk with them individually, then I don't know what to say, because that's how you know to get rid of them. But
Now, DJ's answered that. I'm gonna go ahead and answer it.
Go for it, CJ. The floor is yours.
So now, what is holding you back from completely cutting off toxic individuals who constantly drain you of creative energy? I could give 3 reasons, top 3. Starting with the third one. Third one is trust your gut. If you feel something that is right, and you have physical evidence, screenshot, documentation, whatever it needs to be, make 3 chances, like baseball. 3 strikes, you're out. Once three strikes is over, completely done with them. And the most important thing is, if they blew their 3 chances, it's time to get rid of them. It's time to basically block, be done, move. Valuable. Now we move on to a new topic. Now we move on to the new topic. Set a barrier to your Fed and choose your partnerships wisely. This is a thing I want to talk about. A promotion without borders is just a dumping ground for everyone's mess. Build your walls, vet your partners, and protect your house. Introduction. You wouldn't let anyone walk into your home and rearrange your furniture. So why do promotion owners let unvetted people walk right into your feds and dictate how things run? In this segment, we're going to break down establishment firm boundaries about your brand, how to build strategic partnerships that can evaluate your product and stop treating your federation like an open door charity. The discussion's topics are going to include these: the velvet rope policy, establish standards, operating procedures, entry barriers for talent and partner promotions entering your ecosystem, good partnership versus bad deals, what an authentic cross promotion no alliance looks like, shared audience, mutual respect versus a parasitic relationship with one side does it all heavy lifting. Protect your creative IP, ensures your show's match styles and unique brand don't get watered down by outside influences. Now, we get into the first question of this. What kind of barriers or vetting process does a promotion need to implement before welcoming new talent or partner feds into their universe? And DJ, the floor is yours on this topic.
So, where do I begin with this whole outlook here? The barriers that I set myself as an eFed owner. Trust and communication is critical in my book. If we can't have communication or trust, that kind of barrier is shutting down a lot of things. Number two, in this whole outlook, knowing the toxic narrative people that you have in your Fed. This can go a lot of ways. The instigators, the naysayers, the people who demand everything that they call. These things are kind of vital, if you ask me, to why you have that barrier set the way you have it. And third and foremost, this is probably one of the biggest things you need to look for. The individuals that like to pop shit behind your back. These individuals have a multitude of things that adds up in the long run. Such as, oh, you're not utilizing me, this, that, and the third. You're a bad owner. I'm going to report you to this, that, and the third. These individuals like to kill your creative spark. You can't do storylines with these individuals. They always like to be for themselves and not for the betterment of what you're trying to build for the show. Case in point, you need to watch those 3 signs if you're going to be an eFed owner. Those 3 signs are pretty much the quintessential things of your barrier and boundaries that you set going in. Also, this is one of the biggest things, this is one of the biggest barriers I think every eFed should have. 18 and up only. If you're not 18 and up, what are you doing in eFed? There's a sign of this, because when I was doing this in 23, there was a lot of eFeds who allowed underage individuals to join their Fed without giving a thorough background check. If you're not doing thorough background checks, that's a red flag. Thorough background checks are necessary. They're vital to protecting your eFed. And with that being said, I'll pass the mic over to CJ.
On our partner feds into their universe. I agree with DJ for the first one, an age limit. That is a must. I set your restrictions to where pedophiles aren't allowed into a Fed. Keep them out of CAW. That is a freaking must. I mean, I don't know how many times I got to preach that. Keep them out. Is set a structure or a regulation or a rule that says that, you know, if they messed up, put them in like a probation period to where it's, you know, like a 30-day to 90-day to 60-day probation. For that question. Now, I know DJ's answered that, so I'm going to switch over to the next one. How can you tell if a partnership is mutually beneficial or if your brand is just carrying the weight for someone else's dead Fed? DJ, you got the floor.
Okay. How do you know these two things? Let's just say this. For that dead weight part, lack of communication, no contact with the owner, so busy with life that you don't even recognize that you're a part of an EFED. Like, I say it like this. Those three things right there, if you have no communication and no thought of communication, that's a dead weight individual. Long periods without communication, I mean, that's critical. Because how is someone supposed to build a storyline without communication with you? Second thing that holds volumes. Knowing your partners that you have. X, Y, and Z say this owner over here of CHW and this owner over here of KIN, they don't communicate. They see the partnership in mutual relations and all that. But at the same time, are they pushing your brand on their show? If they're not willing to push your brand as they are doing commentary or little commercials in between, not pushing your brand, then they wasn't a real partner. That's something like you got to have some sort of boundary to where if you're going to be in a partnership, that communication factor and you pushing everybody's brand is essential. Because if we're not willing to push each other's brand, then how are we supposed to grow as a unit? And that's pretty much everything I got to say to that one, because I feel like those two things go hand in hand.
Now, going back to this question, this is a huge thing. You know, if you could tell a partnership is mutually beneficial or if a brand is just carrying the weight for someone else's dead Fed. Here's how you can tell the difference. One, if the feds that are working together are supporting you. Two, if they are helping you get talent and if it's like a shared basis. If they're not sharing, then there could be a red flag. Couldn't be. I'm not saying it could, or, if or ain't. I'm just saying watch out for it. Most importantly, if it's beneficial, you're going to know that people is going to support you by the way their actions indeed follows. That's the main source of key there for that question. Next question we're going to roll with is, what boundaries can you put in place today to ensure outsiders respect the culture and rules of your promotion? DJ, you got the floor on that. This will be our last question too of this segment before we go to episode 3. So, segment 3. So, DJ, you got the floor on this.
So, what boundaries can I put in place today to ensure outsiders respect the culture? One, you have to know the business at hand. One of the most vital things to respecting wrestling is knowing wrestling. If you don't know wrestling, then why are you in this profession? Boundary number 2, and this is probably going hand in hand with number 1. Respecting the culture of the ring. If you don't respect the culture of the ring and what's sacred about that ring, then I don't think you are in this profession to learn. Another thing about it is having the number 1 rule, the rules of your promotion are vital in every way, shape, or form. If you ever see in your eFed chat rules and regulations that should be abided by, and if you don't have professionalism, if you don't have respect for the owners and the talent on the roster, what are you doing in this profession? There's levels to this that I can go on and on with. But knowing the foundation of what that company said, it should be your number 1 priority coming into the car industry. And I think that's where I'll leave it at that, CJ.
We get into this topic, why boundaries can put you in a There's 2 reasons why that I'm going to give you. 1, it ensures safety of your talent, management, staff, etc. 2, it pretty much sets a standard or boundaries or barriers that lets others know, hey, you break the rules, there's consequences for breaking the the rules, what's going to happen when you break those rules. Respect those rules. Respect, the promotion that's ensuring not only your safety as a CAW wrestler, but also as a management and staff base for that is basically something here that I feel like that needs to be discussed, and this is the main event topic. Okay. So the main event segment of this So let me fix this real. Up. This is crucial. Why you never burn down your past connections. This is part about never burn the bridge that you build. This is a major key factor. Introduction for this. It's time for the main event. Go of frustration or sudden falling out lead them to blow out relationships, trash past partners publicly, and burn bridges that took years to construct it. In this main event, we are breaking down why burning bridges is the ultimate career suicide in the CAW community, and
You're cutting up, CJ.
hear me. Making sure.
Yep, I hear you. You was just cutting up in that last part.
So basically, I'm going to read this topic again. Basically, in this main event, we are breaking down why burning bridges is the ultimate out of spot always hurts your reputation worse than theirs. The small world of CAW promotions, how talent, graphic creators, and owners move between feds, why a burn bridge today means getting blacklisted from a top tier projects tomorrow. Leaving on your own terms with as I'll set this up. And DJ, if you want to add anything to that introduction, you're more than welcome as I get this ready to rock and roll with these questions.
Yep. I don't really have much to really say. You kind of hit everything on the nail there.
So now, our first question. Why do so many creators feel the need to publicly air their grievances and burn bridges instead of quietly walking away? DJ, you got the floor on this first question of the main event segment, burning bridges.
I'll say it like this, and I've noticed this one pattern as a whole to why so many creators feel the need to publicly air their grievances. It's because they can't settle things in private. They can't settle things on a one-on-one basis. This is why most of the community is so toxic right now. You air these differences out on your page, and then ultimately you get blackballed or blacklisted for whatever reason because you're the one that's throwing the pot with it. If you never posted up that said post, why are we in the predicament we're in now? Some owners need to really be accountable for who they bring on their roster. These individuals who like to air their differences in public are the same ones that's killing your e-fed. And if they're killing your e-fed, why are you constantly trying to say, oh, you're not addressing it, but instead you rather leave it alone and not tackle it head on? This is why you're in the predicament you're in and you don't have the help necessary, because that same person that you allowed to put that post out there is the same person killing your fed internally. And I'm not saying this to be rude or whatever, but you got to watch for these individuals.
Now, DJ's answered that. I'm going to answer this on my terms, on not my terms, but my opinion about this. If DJ's through with that question, because
Yep.
I feel like. So now, while so many creators feel the need to publicly air their grievances and burn bridges instead of quietly walking away, there's many reasons to that, actually. I'm going to list 3. One, they don't have it in them to publicly apologize to that person or individual. They rather let their health or something, that they can't control in the way instead of publicly apologizing, because they want to always try to play victim. That's that's the biggest thing about people that I notice. They always try to play victim. You can't play victim when there's a lot of people that have screenshots and evidence, especially evidence on you, screenshots and documentation on you, and you're trying to lie about it. You can't lie about it. Next thing I notice is why creators feel like they need to publicly air the grievances and burn the bridges is because they can't do the right thing. And what I mean by that is they can't go to that creator and be professional about it. They show their lack of professionalism. They don't have the professionalism part in them, because if they did, they would have done the right thing and do what we call right for business. But at the same time, they want to burn bridges instead of fixing the issue. That's a major key factor in that as well. And, the last part that I've noticed is this. Don't know if DJ's, experienced this in his CAW career, but I've experienced this in mine, is your talent. When you got a talent that is doing good in certain areas and you got somebody on the show, not saying that, he's doing good or bad, but I'm just saying that's, putting that person down, that can be a little problem why, people is quietly walking away. People is not wanting to be a part of the show, because even though they worked hard for that promo, it feels like, there's some grudge in areas that maybe they need to walk away from, because they feel like somebody has a grudge against them that won't publicly say it on air. And that right there is the biggest issues. What I seen, DJ can, not really verify, but DJ can express on his own ways of what he saw in the CAW community that literally made him feel like walking away too. There's a lot of people that, when you do good something good in CAW, it feels like somebody negative always has to put their input on it, or always have to do something to bring you down as an individual or somebody else down. And, what I'm trying to say is it's best to walk away from that to be the better man and show professionalism, because one, that's going to make you look good in the long run, because you know how to act professional when it comes to that. And two, and the main two reason why this is a huge factor in this scenario is you're not allowing toxicity in your life. You're cutting it off. So that's why, it's better to show professionalism, walk away professionally and respectively and positively, than to burn a bridge, is what I'm trying to say with that one. Now we're going to move on to the next question. What mindset shift is required to choose long-term reputation and professionalism over short-term emotional satisfaction without leaving a toxic situation? DJ, you have a floor on this.
Let's keep this all the way 100 here. Because once the mindset shift is required, you got to be more, you got to do your due diligence for one. Without doing that, you can't run a successful eFed without due diligence. Number two, you got to be more in sync with what's going on. Adapt with the times. Keep those same core values you bought when you started EFED and just build off of it. Number 3, and I think this is the most important thing, interaction with your roster. If you are not interacting with your roster on a constant basis, I feel like you missed the plot on EFED, because with communication with your roster ultimately leads to better understanding, and things go uphill from there. No communication with your roster, you have that downhill decline. You don't know where to go. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to turn. And then this also is one of the biggest, that communication factor is also critical, because your champions should have the most communication factor unless it comes down to a storyline. That's where you need to get in touch with the other people that's in question with the storyline. And then, I got to say, with all that being said, you have to be more mindful when it comes down to how you go about your words. Your words can be some of the most inspirational things to your roster. At the same time, you start to curse out your roster, that's where your roster may feel, maybe this spot ain't for me. It's levels to how you operate your show. At the same time, treat your roster with the same respect they would treat you. This is how you get ahead in the EFED industry. And that's pretty much all I got to say to that one.
Now, going back to that question that DJ answered, what mind shift is required to choose long-term reputation and professionalism over short-term emotional satisfaction when leaving a toxic situation? The reason why the mindset shift is required to choose long-term termination of professionalism is this reason. When you're showing professionalism, it makes you look good in the long run. Because now you're not destroying somebody's call or somebody's hard work. You're basically showing respect and long-term reputation towards what they done for the community, what they done for the Fed. Now, here's the thing that I noticed for years, and this is years of, combining work, combining the promos, the creativity behind the call. When you work that hard to build your call the way it is, people will start noticing. People will start noticing the professionalism behind that call and you being professional. And it will also make you gain your ground to where you're in better companies that pretty much will. There's some companies out there, that will put a stop to the drama, toxicity, grudges, vendettas, etc. There's some companies that will do that. Not saying all of them, but at the same time, you got to know your boundaries. It goes back to boundaries. You got to know, that song of Kenny Rogers. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. And you better count your money when you're sitting at the table, because when that deal is done, it's over. So going back to this question, I think the mindset shift is required to choose long-term reputation and professionalism. That should be required. What shouldn't be required is emotional satisfaction when leaving a toxic situation. If you feel like that EFED is toxic and you feel like that you've been put down, or you feel like that you are being bullied, manipulated, whatever the case may be. I'm just, naming names. I'm not trying to, take up for nobody in any sort of way. I'm just expressing how I felt when I was in some feds. I'm not going to name the names, but I kind of feel that, vibe being in there. But sometimes it's all right to leave a toxic situation. The main thing that I'm going to say here before we move on to the next question is this. The main thing that you need to take focus and accountability on is when you leave that toxic situation, don't try to reinsert yourself back into that toxic scenario again, because now it's like a revolving door. We've talked about that earlier in the episode, early in this episode about the revolving door. It's the same old shit over and over again. But that question's answered. We're going to move into another one. And boy, this is going to hit home run, DJ. So I hope you got your ball bat and knock another home run, because now it's pretty much this. Have you seen a promotion owner or talent completely ruin their future opportunities because how they handled a single exit or petty vendetta? DJ, you got the floor in this, and swing the bat for a home run.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Well, get your popcorn ready, because DJ's going to be flying balls out of this.
Where do I begin with this? Because this is probably one of the most critical signs that I have seen in my illustrious run in eFed. Those individuals that can't seem to handle the situation accordingly like to take things out of context, abuse their power, manipulate your words, twist them, whatever the case may be. These individuals have a lack of understanding what was said, how it was said, and literally not getting along with said individuals in the chat. It's a long list of things that makes it more essential to have communication in your roster. If you're not willing to communicate in your roster, then what's the point of being an eFed? I feel like there's a lot of things that plays a huge role in everything going on. Those same factors play a real vital role in everything moving forward. Because if you're not willing to communicate nor have a structure of communication, then you need to get these toxic individuals out of there. And that's all I have to say to that one, because it's a lot that I want to really say.
Go ahead, DJ. You got the floor. Don't hide it. Go ahead.
And another thing, it's almost like, why do we have individuals that like to stir the pot in chats? Case in point, you like to say, oh, the owner's not doing this, the owner's not doing that. Where's the owner when we need him? This, that, and the third. Why ain't the owner communicating in the chat? Has it ever dawned on y'all that the owner may be occupied with either setting up the show lineup or getting things in motion for the show? Which is why most of y'all feel so entitled, but y'all hit owners up last minute saying, oh, I have an update. Oh, what's going on with my storyline? This, that, and the third. Do y'all not realize don't know what you can do but so much before showtime? Like, why don't y'all think of these things ahead of time or in advance to hit the owner before the day of the show? This is why there's no valid communication factor in CAW nowadays. Because y'all think everything is supposed to be on y'all cue. If an owner is busy, an owner is busy. There are certain times I've tried to get in touch with the owners I'm in with, and they never answer back. That don't mean that we're not going to respond to you in a reasonable manner. It means hold on, let us finish what we're finishing, and we'll get back to you at our earliest convenience. Some of us work. Some of us are doing things with our families that y'all may not realize. But work with us, we work with you. And that's pretty much all I got to say to that one.
Now, if DJ's through with this, I'm going to take over, and boy, I'm going to go right for the right. In other words, I don't want to really drop a nuke, but I'm going to drop a nuke anyways with this question. So hope anybody don't get offended. But yes, I've seen promotion owners of talent completely ruin their future opportunities because they handled a single exit or petty vendetta. Most of these vendettas that they do is they get mad over somebody because of somebody's rule or restrictions, and they don't like it, and they leave out the door, and they call that bullying. First of all, how is that bullying? So I'm going to be honest and ask, how is that bullying when you set a restriction or a rule out that protects safety levels of call, that protects safety levels of an individual? How is that being what I call, how is that being a bully? The thing that I see in a lot of people, okay, this is where I'm literally going to hit 100% home with this. Definitely going to say this here on the podcast is I saw a lot of people that's done this. A lot of people, they got mad because they didn't like somebody putting a rule in. They got mad. They made their single exit. And then they try to frame this person for bullying somebody else, for bullying, making up bullshit, just basically making up bullshit. And it's sad to see somebody twisting words and twisting narratives for their own agenda. They want to always be the victim, but they don't want to take it goes back to what I said before about accountability. You got to take accountability. It can't be everybody else's fault. It's got to be somebody, you got to take accountability for your actions. You got to take accountability for you as the individual. That's what you got to realize. That's what you got to think. That's what you got to realize, that what you do is your own personal deed that cannot be blamed on, this person, or blamed on this person, or blamed on this person. You got to have accountability for your actions. Your actions will haunt you. And I'm like I said, I'm not trying to target anybody or any individual. I'm just speaking the truth. If you can't handle the truth, then it's a you problem. That's the only thing I'm going to say on this question before I move forward. Next question. How does holding on to a grudge and wasting time trying to get people ousted active destroying the growth or vibe of a wrestling promotion? This is the main focus that I've known for a long time. The grudges and holding vendettas and falsely accusing people of stuff, it has to stop. That's not wrestling. That's personal level that does not need to be in wrestling in general. I kind of feel like, people may be right. You guys can comment in the comments. I will look over the comments and I will agree or disagree with the comments. But you guys got to understand, if you're holding grudges and wasting energy trying to get people ousted and actively destroying the growth and vibe of a wrestling promotion, you guys are the problems. If you was truly a supporter, you wouldn't be destroying the growth of, for example, I'm going to name the companies, ONW and JTV. You wouldn't be destroying those two. Or you wouldn't be destroying TNA or any other company out there, you know, wrestling is about support. It is a support system. If you can't support one another, if you can't support the product, if you can't support one another as a one unit, as a family, you're the problem. I'm just going to speak out on truth and what I stand with. Now let me clarify this before I get in trouble with a lot of people. That does not mean I support pedophiles. That is a whole different method now. Now, when you support pedophiles, that becomes a problem. That becomes of you need to be kicked out of every single fed and shown the door. But at the same time, here's what I'm saying. People that holds grudges and waste energy trying to destroy a growth or somebody's success, or even, you know, mad because somebody's doing better than them, you know, the nice advice that I'm going to give you on this podcast is this. One, know your role, and, you know, understand and get it through your brain that you're not going to be better than anybody else. There's always somebody going to outshine you. I've learned that, you know, through the call industry, through the, you know, e-fed industry, even through the real wrestling promotions. There's always somebody going to be better than you. There's always somebody that's going to outshine you. There's always somebody that's going to out-edit you. You know, the list goes on and on. There's somebody out there that's going to be 10 times better than you. You just have to accept the fact. And, you know, sometimes this is a hard truth to swallow pill. I understand some people don't want to swallow the truth. But at the same time, you got to learn as a CAW promoter and a CAW creator and a CAW wrestling promoter that owns a WWE 2K26 company, that you got to understand that you got to show professionalism. You got to show the respect. You got to show the brotherhood. If you can't respect somebody because they are better than you, that becomes a grudge. I hope you guys understand that. I'm not trying to be a big dick or anything of that process. I'm trying to be friendly to tell you that when you become a person that holds grudges, that are jealous because somebody's cut you off. I don't know the case. I'm just naming examples. Somebody's cut you off somewhere, that you've done something to somebody, or who knows, you know, maybe somebody, you know, gave you so many chances that, you know, you kind of blew that shot. You know, there's a lot of reasons that I think that, you know, could be the reasons. But at the same time, you got to understand, you can't make people do what you want them to do. It's people's free will and choice. That's got to be taken under consideration as well. And Mark, you know, I agree with Mark on this subject. Accountability goes a long way. And I definitely agree with you on that. And also agree with you on this, Mark. It's not being a bully, it's protecting the business. You're right about that. If you can't protect the business, you're letting anything go. That means, you know, for example, I don't know if you guys are Batman fans or Superman fans or, you know, Marvel superheroes. Okay. I'm going to take this in consideration. Okay. Take this as an example, not a consideration, an example. So let's say if you are in a story with the Batman series and you had a choice to either side with Batman or Joker. So in other words, you're telling me you're going to side with a villain that's don't get me wrong. Batman and Joker, I love as characters, so that's why I'm using them as reference. But at the same time, you got to look at their different traits of personalities. You're going to trust somebody that's like Asylum, that's been, you know, he runs the asylum. He's the crazy villain and starts off. You know, one of my other favorite cartoons with Superman. You know, Superman, Man of Steel. He always, you know, had like this, you know, strength, this unhumanized strength, but he also had, you know, other superpowers. CAW, what are we doing? Like, I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to be mean, not trying to be negative, but I'm trying to prove a point. You know, we need to be superheroes in CAW. We need to set a boundary to protect CAW for what it is. And in the long run. So I definitely agree with what Mark's saying. He's 100% right about this. As we get on to our and I'm going to answer this before we close out the show. And this is actually a good question, guys. Take heed to this question, because this question I'm letting you guys answer too. How does holding onto old grudges and wasting time affecting your real life? Here's a good example of this. I've been there and saw a lot of this happening. When you let negative people get to you and literally mess with your mental state, that's when it becomes a real problem. One, take out people that's trying to control your life, or trying to get involved with your real life scenarios, whether it's real life relationships, real life, you know, stuff that's making you happy as an individual. You don't need to be surrounded by people who don't support your real life goals or real for 3 to 4 episodes. The brotherhood and respect is a huge thing in CAW. If you know, just like the real business, if you can't have the brotherhood and you can't have that respect, why are you even in CAW? That's something that I just want to ask. Why are you even in CAW if you can't have the brotherhood or the respect? Those two are a must or a requirement. If you can't respect and have that brotherhood, why are you even doing CAW? Why are you even being that wrestler? Because in the real business, it's about brotherhood and respect. And also, if you're a female joining, it's sisterhood too. Let me throw that in there just so it's not, you know, going to be taken another way here. But what I'm trying to say is, and I'm trying to finish this up, is this. Be around people that's going to support you. Be around people that's going to have your back. Be around people that's going to be professional. Be around people that's going to literally help you in the long run and not try to hurt you in the long run, if that makes sense. And before we go, definitely want to say this. Your health, that everybody needs to take heed to and listen to, because, you know, not even your personal health, but your mental health is also important. If you're dealing with something that, you know, is affecting your peace, walk away from it until you get that peace back, until you get your mental health on a out of here. That's when it becomes a warning sign for your physical and mental health that pretty much it's taking a toll on your day-to-day life. You know, it's recognizing burnout and stress. It's building stress on something. Definitely something you need to educate yourself on about stress, because stress is a huge key factors of people having heart attacks. Going to put that out there in case you didn't know scenario. I hope everyone takes heed to this. In their place, you got to establish that your real life always wins over internet politics and refusing to let cyber drama bleed into your peace of mind. This is a huge thing that you got to do. You got to put your foot down and let these toxic people know that, you know, people that I know that's needs to hear this topic, because they've let something that is in a video game literally mess with their brain to think that they don't have no friends, or they don't have any affects not only your health, but also it affects you as a person, because at the end of the day, this is not a video game. You know, we're here to escape real world reality. We're here to escape from the negative what I'm seeing here that needs to be said is this, and I'm trying to sum this up before I close, is we got to have that mindset of escaping from the real world realities, and also not to add more problems than it necessarily. The mental health, you know, running a wrestling, how you, another question here that I'm definitely going to talk about is this, and I think this needs to be talked about as well. Mental health that's causing you all the stress and, you know, day-to-day worries. Get rid of them people. You know, if you got to block them, but at the same time, you got to set a boundary and a standard. You can't just hold on to a grudge and it becomes, you know, to the point that, you know, you to where, you know, yourself, you know, for example, you could have a heart attack over stress. I mean, that's pretty much why, you know, a lot of people have heart attacks, because they stress out. Boom, heart attack already, you know. Watch out for that. Watch out for stress, you know, but at the same time, for the dear love of God, I've saw this happen too many times, and I'm going to speak about this here. For the dear love of God, don't go back to people that's pretty much put you down and literally made you look like that you wasn't valued. No communications. You know, you set a standard to where you need to be healthy from either your physical or mental health. And that's where, you know, a lot of people, they don't want to do this. And I kind of feel like that this needs to never burn a bridge that in the long run is going to help you. Because when you do, it's harder to go across that bridge when you burn that bridge down, is what I'm trying to say. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Jay will try our best to answer them as soon as possible. Definitely enjoyed this episode for Never Burn Your Bridge That You Built on episode 4 on Everything Call. Definitely enjoyed the people that showed up. Especially, definitely enjoyed the people that are listening. And you guys enjoyed this. I'm going to close out. But like I said, stay humble, stay healthy, and most importantly, never burn the bridge that built you.